but to be the best and holy you that God died for. What else do we know about all these people in the Bible? All these books and names of the Holy Word, they were all human. They were human people. They all had faults. They all had weaknesses. They all had failings. Moses was a murderer, had a temper. Paul had a temper. Moses tried to avoid the call of God. Esther was living a double life. She was living a hypocrite. She was living a hiding life, hiding the most important things in her life. Isaiah, we saw, was sinful. Peter, what do you have to say about Peter? Yet the Bible bears their names. And you look at yourself and you see your failures and you see your mess-ups and the thing you struggle with, and yet God still chooses to call you and work through you to accomplish holy purposes. We do not have perfect people. You do not ever have a perfect congregation, but we've got a perfect God with perfect forgiveness and perfect mercy, and perfect purposes through imperfect people. The God, when Isaiah said, "Woe is me," he didn't run. God didn't say, "Get away from me." He took the coal and he put it to his mouth. He said, "I have unclean lips, unclean mouth." So he takes a coal and puts, how would you like God to do that? Puts a burning coal in his mouth. But he says, okay, let me deal with it. So God says, okay, bring me your sin, let me deal with it, and then let's get on with the calling. You don't let your calling stop. Don't let your sin stop the calling. God is saying, I will deal with your sin, but get on with the calling. Let's get on. Let's deal with it and let's get on with it. Who shall go with me? Who shall be sent forth? God says, he gives it, I will make them walk in my ways. God will give you the power to walk in his ways, but you have to say yes to the call and don't disqualify it. And look in the Bible for all the books that are not there. What? All the people, look for the book of Esau. You won't find it. Why? Because Esau said no to God. Why Esau sold his own birthright? He had the blessing of God and he said no to it. That's why there's no book of Esau. What other books in the Bible don't you have? You don't have the book of Lot. There's no turning to the book of Lot. Lot seemed to be a righteous man, he knew God, but he never really went all out for God. You get the sense of someone who had compromised. There's no book of Laban in the Bible. There's no book of Saul in the Bible. There's a book of Jeremiah. There's no book of Hananiah, the false prophet. You've got you got the books of, these are people who ended up saying yes. The book of Matthew, he's a tax collector who said yes to God. Because he said yes, there's a book. But there's no book of the rich young ruler. He said no. There's no book of Annas and Sapphira. Because their yes to God was a false yes. They said yes, but they didn't mean it. There's no book of Judas. Now you think that's obvious. Looking eternally, God knew, and God, it's all part of his plan. But Judas still had a choice. From a human perspective, Judas betrayed Messiah. Now what would have happened in a human perspective? What would happen if Judas repented? You might have a book of Judas. What would a book of Judas look like? You actually do have a book of Judas. It's called the book of Jude. It's the same name. Jude is Judas. It's really Judah or Yehuda. But it was a different Jude. It was one who actually, the brother of Messiah, who actually said no first, and then he said yes. So it's not just these. There are multitudes of others. It's not that, we don't have the books of. Many of them, we don't have the books, hundreds of books, thousands of books we don't have. Because more people said no. And people talk about the missing books of the Bible. These are the missing books of the Bible. They're not really missing. They never said yes. They turned it down. They never got books. It's like, why? They turn either by saying no outright to God or saying, not today, tomorrow I'll serve you. Putting up, they also, no book for them. The ones who say, tomorrow, they never serve. They never repent. Then if you're saying that, be warned by that, because that's a deception. Even those who said, I'm not worthy of serving you, God, they're also saying no too. You don't think, there are those who said it, but then they end up serving him. But there are, sometimes when you say, God, I'm not worthy, you could be saying no to God. We know we're not worthy, but God makes us worthy. It's the grace by which we are saved. That's why we serve. So be careful of being falsely modest, where you say, God, I'm not worthy, so I can't. That's not in the Bible. We know we're not worthy. God calls you, you serve him. You say yes. You learn much of the revelation from the books that are in the Bible, but you also learn from those that are not. Though the apostle who never said yes, the prophet who said no to God, or the one who never walked when God said, come, walk. We learn what not to do. Why are there no books for those who said no to God? The answer is because there was nothing worth recording, nothing worth naming a biblical book after them. What happened to the prophet who said no to God, the one who was called to be a prophet? Nothing happened. Nothing. What happened to the apostle who was called to be an apostle or a disciple who said no? Nothing. And if you're a person who says no to God, beware, because you'll end up living a no life. You know, not making no difference, no ultimate good. When God calls you, say yes. That's why it's so crucial to stop saying no to God. Not just overtly, but covertly. When you just say, yeah, I'll do it, Lord, but not today. Stop saying that. Or tomorrow, or I'll do it here, or I hear the word, and then once I leave here, by the time I'm out of the parking lot, it's an experience. No, go with it. Go with it. And also, you could say no by saying, I can't follow God. I don't have the strength to do that. That's against God. God said always to the people, I'll be with you. I'll cause you to do it. But you got to say yes. When you say yes to sin, you're saying no to God. When you say yes to that temptation, that indulgence, you're saying that's not his will. It's the same thing as saying no to God. You're hindering your own calling. And that's not worthy of being recorded as a book in the Bible. All those books in some way